Morning, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Colonel David Benjamin, and I'm the product director for CRAM's counter-UAS effort. I've never been the opening act for the Warriors Corner. I'm sure you're more interested in hearing the 7 general officers that will follow, so I'll make this fast. 2016 NDAA Section 809 panel interim report stated that our acquisition process is from another era, one in which the global strategic landscape was entirely different. It goes on to say DoD is not fully adjusted to the pace of this environment, nor is it adjusted to a marketplace that bears no resemblance to that of just a few decades ago. The panel is right on the aggregate. DoD needs to keep pace with the marketplace. The end state has to be getting weapon systems into the soldiers' hands faster. It typically takes at least a year for funding on a traditional program to be put in place and years to a decade for actual fielding to take place. The Army's counter-UAS efforts have gotten equipment into soldiers' hands faster. After the requirement was established, initial funding was received in 3 months. After funding was received, the Army fielded initial equipment within 1 month. To date, this accelerated timeline has resulted in over 295 systems being fielded to soldiers in combat over a period of months rather than years. While this equipment isn't perfect, and we improve upon it with each test, it is in the hands of the soldiers now. This equipment doesn't fully address all the known requirements. We know that and we accept that. But CRAM has built its reputation with the warfighter for getting a capability and a system out there quickly, at the speed of relevance. We listen to soldier and leader feedback, we test, we improve, and we push the next increment out. So what makes the Army's counter-UAS effort different and adaptable to the marketplace? The acting Army acquisition executive, Mr. White, put out a memorandum in December. It models the conditions needed for efforts similar to counter-UAS. It lays out 5 recommendations. Number 1, adapt to the speed of a changing world. Number 2, leverage the dynamic defense marketplace. Number 3, allocate resources effectively. Number 4, simplify acquisition. And number 5, enable the workforce. In counter-UAS, we embrace these 5 tenets. We have to, in order to support the warfighter and meet the accelerated timelines demanded of us. So why the acceleration? The counter-UAS requirement exists because enemy forces adapted commercial products and weaponize them. Commercial vendors are releasing a newer, better UAS every few months. If you want to counter commercial products that have been modified to become a threat, you have to move at a commercial speed. You are forced into adapting at the speed of relevance. That requires staying abreast daily of ongoing assessments from the intel community, adapting to testing environments to address the evolving threat techniques and platforms being utilized. CRAM, the office in charge of this effort, has been continuously supporting urgent requirements for Southwest Asia for over 14 years. In that 14 years, CRAM has learned the value of having system and software engineers on the ground that test, working under real-time conditions, conducting engineering analysis, finding root cause of system performance and user interface issues, writing patches, compiling changes, providing rapid capability throughout the test, find, fix cycle. In many cases, software changes are made every day. Industry implementing software changes daily at a government range requires a change in mindset because a certain trust level must exist between partners. Industry must be willing to stumble while the government watches. And the government must be willing to endure temporary setbacks as long as the final product meets a requirement on time. At our last test event, we saw this in action as the government and industry formed a committee mid-morning, isolated a suspected problem, obtained consensus, wrote the code that night, loaded it in the morning, and then successfully tested it that mid-morning next day. I must commend our industry partners' willingness to make the sacrifices necessary to provide nearly continuous improvement, adapting to a rapidly evolving threat problem that has supported the process of rapid, continuous improvement. industry has accepted that some best practices cannot sustain the pace of a rapid evolution system capability. They have demonstrated a willingness to provide background processes, not slowing down the forward progress of the team on the ground, but working behind the scenes to provide hardware and software quality, reliability, and factory testing to significantly reduce the timeline to get the product to the warfighter. The most important aspect of adapting to the speed of relevance is constant contact with soldiers on the ground, employing this counter-UAS equipment, establishing the communication lines that allow for the reporting of issues and circumstances that can be addressed in ongoing testing, adding necessary corrections and improvements into products from the live theater environment feedback. Incorporating that real-time user feedback into ongoing testing is a perfect example of adapting to the changing operational environment. Counter-UAS systems are an emerging market. Industry anticipated this marketplace and has invested their own capital. The Army is leveraging the dynamic defense marketplace by recognizing not only industry's investment, but their willingness to team. Industry is not only willing to team with the government, but other industry partners who bring a different capability to a counter-UAS system. Some testing can only be done at a government range. The Army has leveraged this by inviting industry to test their equipment at these ranges. It's important to note that we're testing and not demonstrating. After these test events, industry can take the instrumented data and make marked improvements to their systems. This has benefits by allowing industry to improve the capabilities of their systems and allows the government to try before you buy. Industry also gains a better understanding of what the government is looking for when they review the test data and has the opportunity to return at their next opportunity with an improved system. There are over 17 industry partners involved in the Army's counter-UAS efforts. This is a result of the Army's counter-UAS approach requiring a system-to-system where multiple subsystems are needed. Additionally, this threat doesn't only apply to DoD. These two factors result in a number of traditional and non-traditional DoD industry partners with products that are being leveraged in a dynamic marketplace. Allocating resources effectively has been absolutely essential to the Army's counter-UAS efforts. The Army's efforts has evaluated multiple technology streams. We have repurposed programs of record such as the Q-50 radar, Crew Duke, and the Crow's mobile gun system, with new software that helps defeat the counter-UAS threat. We have literally taken technology, KA radar, from canceled programs out of warehouse and leverage it in this development effort. We are reutilizing combat-proven technology, the CRAM command and control, the LPWS, so the soldier downrange has a comfort level with the new equipment they'll receive. As we assess gaps in capability, we assess emerging technology that are being developed for other requirements, and quickly we adapt them to the counter-UAS requirements, such as the Coyote system, the Claws laser system, and the RIP turret. Effective resource allocation requires us to examine all avenues and not default to developing new technology, since there is now a new requirement. Utilizing resources effectively simplifies acquisition, but we need to understand that sometimes simplifying acquisition means we have to be open to using more contract types. CRAM's counter-UAS efforts utilize a number of different contracting options, from the traditional ACC Redstone to non-traditional, the DIUXs, the DMEAs, the DOTSIs. There are currently 13 different contracts in the Army's counter-UAS effort. 13. Most programs have a single contract, the prime, who subs out work to multiple sub-vendors. Most of us would consider one contract simpler than 13 contracts, and they would be right. They would be right if the requirements never change and funding levels remain consistent. Since we live in a world where those two things don't exist, we have to simplify to the world we live in. We don't have time to change one contract and wait for all the sub-vendors to agree to the changes. That can take 4 to 6 months easily. We don't have that type of time. and it's not that simple. So instead, we make a minor change to one of the 13 contracts we do have and move on in a month, if not less. I just made the process seem simple, but the reality is it requires the government to ensure that there are no other impacts on the other 12 contracts. All that really requires is getting all the vendors on the phone, telling them the change, and determining if there will be impacts. It's that simple, and that's what we do every day. Enabling the workforce is another easy concept to grasp but hard to implement. You enable the workforce by delegating decision-making. In my 9 years in the acquisition workforce, this is the most authority that I've ever had. That point was reiterated to me when I looked at the speakers for this Warrior Corner schedule. There are 7 general officers on the schedule, and lowly me. I make decisions daily that in the past would have required me to brief multiple echelons before approval. Not only have I been delegated authority, but I'm delegating that authority decision down to my subordinates. Since CRAM is not the only government agency working this effort, it has required other government agencies to delegate. This government teaming is the best I've ever seen. There are 30 government agencies and 17 industry partners, and they've all been enabled to make this successful. As I said before, this effort has illustrated to me that we must adapt to the speed of a changing world. We have to leverage the dynamic defense marketplace. We need to allocate resources more effectively. We need to simplify acquisition. We need to enable the workforce. All these things are needed in order to be successful, to adjust to the pace of the commercial marketplace. But the Army has to ask, what's next after this urgent counter-UAS need ends? All G1's efforts end, as they should. We should leverage these efforts to inform future developmental program decisions. We need to collectively see what works, what doesn't, what needs improvement. And we should do this in limited quantities. And that will help avoid long acquisition cycles, which results in the United States' ability to maintain technological, military, and economic superiority and adjust to the pace of this environmental marketplace. As Secretary Mattis noted, if we fail to adapt at the speed of relevance, our forces will lose. CRAM and our partners have taken this mantra to heart, and we recognize we exist for one reason: to support those men and women who put their lives in harm's way each and every day. In turn, they place their trust in us to protect them from this threat. We will not fail them. Thank you, and have a great day. I'll now take any questions. So the question is, how long does it take to put a new partner on the contract? Well, it depends on what contract vehicle we use. So we've gotten some done through UCA actions, and we've done those in under 2 months. It depends on each and every one of the new partner that comes in there. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.